is love? Now, in this brief video, we're not going to go over all the different aspects of what love means. C.S. Lewis did write a fantastic book titled The Four Loves, and I'd push you to look into that. It is a very worthwhile read. What we're just going to talk about today is two ways that today's society that we have in America often think or use love, and then how does Scripture specifically tell us what love is and how it actually motivates us for change. So number one, love is often like just a hunger. For some people, whether or not they're thinking about their romantic love or a love that about deep care and compassion for someone, often it's just misunderstood as you have found someone who thinks you're cool or thinks you're attractive, and you just love the idea that you got that attention and you're infatuated with that concept that someone has noticed you and given you that attention. And then so when you say that you love them, when you do things for them, a lot of that comes from just a motivation that that person just happens to find you in some way, shape, or form attractive and gives you attention. But if over time they don't find you as attractive and they don't give you proper attention, then the love you would have for them might also dwindle away. You see what the problem of that can be. Love is not simply something that is based on circumstances. The circumstances are just, I find this person to be cool, attractive, interesting, and whatnot. I'm entertained by them in some way, shape, or form. But if those things were to go away, does love then go away? And therefore, a lot of times, the love that we might have for someone can simply just be misunderstood as the sort of need or desire to be with someone or someone to think of us a certain way. But those relationships tend not to last, whether or not we're talking about marriage, romantic relationships, or even friendships for that matter. Likewise, sometimes today we like to think of love as simply just affirming people. That's a very big thing that's going on, that has been going on in our society, which is if you love someone, you're going to affirm them. And that's not always a bad thing. If somebody has a dream, they want to build a career, they want to do something with their life that's rather novel, and you want to encourage them, you might, affirm them and say, yeah, go on this adventure or go do this education or start this pursuit in life. There's nothing wrong with affirmation in those ways. What is wrong is if you take it to the extent that love is affirmation, therefore anything a person says who they are, what they want to do, if you love them, you'll affirm them always. Where's the problem with that? Well, what if what they're wanting to do or what they're wanting to be happens to not be in line with truth? Now, we could spend a long time talking about what do we mean by that, because that's a very deep spiritual, biblical, theological topic about what is truth. And we've talked about that before in this series in different parts. The shortened version, dare we say, if somebody's wanting to do something or be something of their identity that is outside the created order of how God ordered the universe, well, then their conduct, their pursuit that they're doing would not be in line with how God created the world, and therefore it would go against the grain, and dare we even say in most cases it's sinful. There is a reason why God ordered the family and our lives about what it is that we say, what we do, our actions, how we treat our time, what do we do with our money, how we treat other people. All of that, we could say, was under the law, and of course Jesus giving us the ultimate example of what it is to truly fulfill the law. If we try to pursue something in life or to be something in life that is not in accord with how God created the world, and we think that loving is just affirmation saying, whatever you want to be and whatever you want to do, go do that, then that's not really love. That's just, in some cases, either us being a coward and not telling the person the truth of, if you go and do this, or if you go and be this, whatever this is, that's not in line with what we would call the truth with how God made the world. Or just being cowardly because we're afraid to offend that person. Or even we may be found in by us not telling the truth about it. We're not just affirming the person, we're affirming the action or the lifestyle or the pursuit or the identity that the person's trying to be. And it's not really loving, because at the end of the day, somewhere you know that not only has negative effects for them, the individual, but for society all around. Therefore, what is truly love in the most shortened version? John does a wonderful job of defining that for us. There's actually a couple different places that we could see in Scripture. 1 John chapter 4, looking at verses 7 through 9, he says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. And whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. In this, the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him." In other words, God is, in fact, love, and there's a lot of theological discussions that has been had about that. And we don't truly know what love is apart from God, and how that was ultimately made manifest at the very end there in verse 9 is the example in the ministry of Jesus. One way, if we were to just use one word to define something that what is really at the essence of love, it's the idea of sacrifice. You care enough about a person or group of people so much that your own wants, needs, and desires are subordinate to theirs. You're willing to sacrifice something of yourself for that person or that group's benefit. Whereas if love is only like a hunger that we talked about earlier, it's really more about what I'm getting out of the person than what I'm giving to them, or a mutual relationship. And if, again, love is just affirming people abroad, and again, it's more of us not being truthful and sometimes maybe even being cowardly. Whereas if love is truly sacrifice, like that of Jesus, God comes into the world, Romans chapter 5, while we were still yet sinners, he died for us, he paid our own penalty, he looked at us with pity and said, "You're still worth having a relationship with me, and the way I'm going to prove that to you, I'm going to take your place." And therefore, what John encourages us, what Paul encourages us elsewhere, whether you're looking at 1 Corinthians 13 or the myriad of other passages written, now that the phone call has been complete, whether we look at the whole myriad of passages of what Paul has told us about love, what we always see is a calling upon us being sacrificial for other people. That's really what it is to be loving, because the way God ultimately demonstrates love is he sacrifices for us, for our benefit, when he didn't have to. So what is love? If you had to put it in just one word, I would choose sacrifice. To truly love someone is to look out for their needs, and even to the point where you suppress your needs so that theirs can be filled. And in so doing, you actually improve the relationship, because that person sees that you truly love them, and they're most likely to reciprocate, because what is it that John was telling us there? Because Jesus, God himself, has sacrificed for us, it's what motivates us to go be loving and sacrificial to other people. We're not just saved from our own sins, we are transformed in our lives to go and now participate and do the very same thing that Christ done, sacrificial love. And if we truly do that, then we transform our lives and we understand what love is really all about.